I'll be doing a few introductions, right? There's a few new faces around the table. First of all, apologies. Housekeeping, would that be usual? Thank you. So, welcome to everyone. Reminder, please switch off your mobiles or turn to silent. Are there members of press joining us? Joining us, okay. So can please ask those attending virtually to switch off the microphones to avoid any disruption during the meeting. The meeting has been recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. Remind the councillors to ensure those attending virtually can hear the proceedings. And for recording to capture, please speak clearly. If you can hear me, I think you'll hear everyone. There's a full meeting. Please refer to councillors as and not the first names. There's no fire alarm.
Sometimes, Chair,
No, thank you.
the fire alarm does go, then we just
Thank
exit
you.
into the car park.
Right, good. Apologies for absence.
I think apologies from councillors Orange, Quinn and Tops.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 2, approve as correct the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of June. It's a lifetime ago, isn't it? A whole summer. Can I have I think Councillor Mark Hayward Booth, Moser and Councillor Walker. Second. All the agreements. Thank you. Everyone, thank you. Items brought forward after the chair considers the meetings. So, few introductions, etc. Introduction to Darren Roberts, our new internal auditor from Devon Audit Partnership. Darren, I think, has been done some work with us on IT in the past.
Yeah.
So, I know Councillor Bushell is not here yet, so it's always keen to discuss those topics. And later on, I think we'll find that most of the action has been closed off, I think, which is reassuring. We'll see later anyway, which is good. In attendance, we've got Councillor Rutty, who, all being well, we join the committee subject to full council agreement at the next meeting. And congratulations on the appointment. Welcome to our deputy leader, Peter Lever, and welcome back, Councillor Jones. And I think we've met Joe McCormick from Devon Audit Partnership. Welcome back again. Thank you. Can I put on record, but now later on, our thanks to Bradley Hutton, who was our previous auditor. A few months, I'm not sure how many it was he here? A year? Yeah, was David Ty's been with us. He's still with DAP, just gonna move around. So thank you for his work the last few months. A reminder I think you've all had an email from I'm not sure it's from DAP or from our officers to complete a member security questionnaire. If you could please complete that. Have you got emails last week?
So we're undertaking an internal audit at the moment over member security.
Yes.
To send all members. I think we've currently got about 25% response so far. So a few more would be.
We do get a lot of emails, so if you could just check back for a few days. Thank you. And we've discussed in the past about good practice, about having sort of one-to-one or access without the officers to our auditors. So from the next meeting, our internal auditor will be available in 30 minutes before the meeting if you need to. Not need an appointment, do we? Because sort of if you just need to sort of grab one of us, we'll know where they're hiding. Thank you. I think that's all. Anyone else? Wasn't it? Thank you. I would like to propose, subject to the agreement, as we bring agenda item forward. I think it's item 9.
Okay.
9 forward to allow Councillor Jones to go to another meeting. Very busy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if we need to formally, so I'll cover it anyway. So can I have Poser, Howard Booth, and seconded by Councillor Bushell All in favour? Thank you. So that'll be in the first part of that. I'll tell you when that's coming out. Thank you. To Jones, Councillor Jones. Declaration of interest. Any declarations? No. Thank you. To agree agenda between part A and part B. There is a part B. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Walker, Secretary Howard Booth. All in favour? Thank you. Right, moving on to part A. So we're going to agenda item 9. Is that our monetary officer?
Yes,
Thank you.
so thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. So this report sort of in two parts to an extent. The first part deals with the LGA peer review that has been before Policy Development Committee and since been to Strategy and Resources Committee and has come through with some constitutional amendments, which is what they come here. And the other part relates to the rejigging of the delegated officer powers, also in the Constitution, which reflects the vacant head of planning, housing and health, which is now held by other officers. So just to run through, just very quickly. So an action plan, you'll probably be aware from the report, an action plan was agreed by Policy Development Committee following on from the peer review. And the what's before you today just really relates to the constitutional changes. So the particular changes being made are to change the name of Policy Development Committee to the Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee. The terms of reference for Strategy and Resources Committee and the renamed Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee have been reviewed, and it's considered that changes are only required for the Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee as shown in the amendments to 6.3 and Part 2 of the Constitution. It's considered the terms of reference for Strategy and Resources Committee are suitable and do not require updating because they already, there isn't a reciprocal requirement in terms of who can be on policy development. And the Constitution has been updated to provide that members of Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee cannot sit on Strategy and Resources Committee. There is an action that Policy Development Committee marked for implementation in April 2026, but we've brought it up now, given that there are no current members sitting on both Strategy and Resources Committee and Policy Development Committee. So there is already provision that members of the Governance Committee, plus that there is also provision that members of the Governance Committee cannot sit on the Strategy and Resources Committee, so no further changes are required there. So we're just addressing the fact that there'll be a separation of Strategy and Resources Committee and the members that are sitting on governance and the members that are sitting on policy development, which is what was part of that. The recommendations that came out of that. It's some quite minor changes to Part 2 of the Constitution, because Policy and Development Committee, as it's called now, its delegated powers are set out in Article 6.3 of the Constitution, and those just add a few little bits to it around, kind of trying to define that scrutiny arrangement, mainly around scrutinising service delivery rather than decisions being made. So it's not proposing to create a formal overview and scrutiny committee, which you would have to have if we had an executive model, primarily because a committee model allows for it has cross-party working across multiple committees, including Strategy and Resources Committee. Appendix A includes the minute extract, and that's for this committee to note And then after that, we've got quite a few appendices, apologies, but I tried to sort of provide it so you could see in track changes what's being changed in the constitution. So what we're seeking to recommend. So this is a power that's referred to full council. So so any recommendation you'll be making today will be to full council to ratify, because it's a change to the constitution. So Appendix B sets out the part 2, and that's the terms of reference for Policy Development Committee. Annex 1 to part 3 it just requires that's in Appendix C. That's just the changes that provide for members of Policy Development Committee not being on Strategy and Resources Committee. And then the changes in Appendix D are the changes to the officer delegated powers, and those are, just as I said, there's no new powers being given. It's just rejigging what was already there to suit what how the heads of service now how they now are. And just to say, so the track changes for Appendix B are in Appendix E. The track changes for Appendix C are in Appendix F, and the track changes for Appendix D are in Appendix G, just to show you how it's changed from how it currently is. So again,
That's simple, wasn't it?
So just going through all those.
Thank you. I'm not sure the approach is. I know that Councillor Howard Booth, good questions asked moments. Do you want to ask that now? And then perhaps we can just revisit wording. Well,
Can we do that?
yes.
Thank you. Well, one of the things I think is missing from the proposal for changing the constitution is how we decide who chairs the Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee. And I understand that there's been quite a lot of research into this by Adam and others, and that it is a grey area, and there's no hard and fast rule that the chair of such a committee would need to be from an opposition party rather than the ruling party, if that's the right expression. So I think this really needs to be looked into quite carefully, and I know colleagues of mine are much more informed about it than I am. So perhaps we could hear from them at this stage, and I could come back later.
Is you agreement if we agree the track changes now?
I personally would be very happy with that. I don't know what others would be.
Because it's quite a bit to clear here. Then we discuss your particular.
I'm personally
question.
happy with that.
Is that okay with members? We're not finalising it. We're just saying we're just going to agree because it's a lot here. I'll give them clear that and discuss that. Agreement to discuss. Or Councillor Bishop, have you got a comment to make? Or?
Yeah, I do remember that we discussed at some length whether members of the policy committee should be allowed to be on governance, but in order to show a great deal of transparency, and that was in the LGA report. However, the chairing issue is again about transparency, but certainly after the last policy meeting, I would question whether it is right to have the ruling party in the chair there, because there can become too much sway in debate, and debate can be stifled. So,
Not dismissing. I think maybe I wasn't clear. I'm happy to discuss that separately. I was wondering if we could just sign off these changes now, and then go on to any amendments that we may or may not agree. Would that be, is that clear?
well,
It's a like contentious bits first, and then
It's the
so
same thing.
even if we vote on it, we're allowed to amend it afterwards,
Yes,
because it just seems a little bit
well,
backwards to
there's a lot.
not
I
make.
just wonder if I can just sort of clear that. I mean,
So we're going to go through them on a point by point basis.
no, too much. I think I just wondering if anyone's got any observations about the changes that are in there. No. There's
There's
not
observations, no votes.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And
Oh, yeah, but there's just one minor point of clarification. It's just, yeah, we noticed after the documents went out that, and this is just a very minor thing that doesn't relate to the LGA's recommendations. This is about the delegated powers that the officers have. There was a change that Strategy and Resources approved and was ratified by full council around pest control service, hadn't been added to the constitution. So then the version I amended also didn't include that, but then we realised it and then added it in because it's already been ratified by full council. I didn't want there to be a confusion by having a version that's here that's ratified by full council being different from that one. So this is a supplemental document was provided.
Yes.
And is that called appendix? So the clean copy version, is that called a?
Yeah, it's under appendix I.
If it's I.
It would have been
Okay.
issued on Modern Government Small.
Okay, so
I certainly didn't see that. Could you just read through the?
I'm not sure there's much to read through, is there?
It's a
So-
change.
So yes, I mean, all that's changed is it's added a power to the head of program management office, housing and health, which was formerly would have come under the head of planning, housing and health, and it's a power around running a oh, hang on, I'll put locate it now, sorry.
0.5.
That's it.
1.15A.
1.15A, that's it. And so this was approved by Strategy and Resources Committee and ratified by full council before, but erroneously wasn't then actually uploaded into the constitution, which meant that when I amended the constitution, I also didn't include it, but then noticed, only just when we were looking through and making sure that it ought to have been there. So apologies for not noticing that before, but that power was already put in there. So all it's doing is putting it back in where it should have been, if that makes sense. So it isn't anything new.
Councillor
I could
Cavalier.
propose a motion that we do accept the tracking changes now and move on to debate the
Yes.
other question.
Is that, so just to clarify, so for 2.2.3, it would be appendix I then, I assume, rather than D. That's the only change that this will make. Sorry, just to clarify that.
Point.
2.3 is I.
All right, okay.
Apologies.
Other than D, is it? Okay. So you propose, can I have a seconder that we are just agreeing the tracking change and we will cover the okay. All in favour? Good, thank you. Right. So sorry to interrupt you earlier on, Councillor Bushell. Did I stop you midstream? But I think you covered the history
I
of.
think I said what it is.
You did. Thank you.
I'd be happy to give way to councillor Jones.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Obviously, transparency is more important than anything else within council.
Yeah, it's a slightly sensitive one and it feels political, but it really isn't. Particularly more challenging that the chair of the committee that we're talking about is a fellow friend, as sort of Councillor Frank, and more awkward that I am the vice chair. So immediately might benefit from the points I'm raising, but I really would be happy to stand aside and let somebody else take that position. I think it's about transparency and openness. So the points I just wanted to bring up. So there had been lots of conversations about the committee changing from a policy committee to a committee to add more scrutiny. Effectively, policy already had the scrutiny, but the decision was made for the committee to change to a policy and scrutiny committee. I've been researching the situation. It's my understanding that the best practice is for the chair to come from a different party, even within a committee system. It's based on guidance from the LGA, the DCLG and CFGS, all of which basically say that it is a grey area. And they all recommend that for transparency and openness, the best route is to have a different chair. So I've gone through literally, I read thousands of reports and looked through it, and they basically praise where even committees with a structure, even with a committee structure, have a chair that is not from the leading group. And I think what's really important is to praise this administration for wanting to take the direction that they are. So the recommendations have come for best practice, for being most open to the public. So we don't necessarily need to have change the name of the committee. Policy committee already met that function. We're doing it to make it clearer and more transparent. In the same sense, we don't need to say that members of the strategy and resource committee don't need to be part of it. But again, it's being done because this administration wants to be 10 out of 10. They want to be doing things that are completely open and completely transparent, which I think we all agree is fantastic. The bit that's a little bit iffy is when it comes to the chair. 10 out of 10 is it wouldn't be chaired by a Lib Dem. But unfortunately, the decision was made for the chair to change, and it's becoming challenging to change that chair. But the fairest open thing to do, if we want to be as open and transparent as we aim to be, would be for that committee not to be chaired by a Lib Dem. And I think, and I pushed to the governance committee to make that decision and to make it clear and to bring an amendment to change the constitution so that the chair of a committee with a scrutiny function is not chaired by members of the leading group. Now, there's a few contentious points here, which is it was a commitment that had already been made. So a lot of us were already having discussions, and it was fairly clear that if the function changed, then the chair would likely change. The bit that got confusing is that it's not a separate scrutiny committee. But I think we all agree that a separate scrutiny committee at a time where we're under-resourced and we're spending a lot of resource looking at government change would not have been the best way forward. So the idea was to have a joint committee. Now, in the July full council meeting, John Petrinas put the question to the leader of our leader, and asked David, did he support that? And just to be clear, the terminology was he specifically said a policy and scrutiny committee. Did he support that committee, amongst other points, would not be chaired by a Lib Dem? And he confidently stood there, and I can show you all the recording, and said, yes, I absolutely agree with those points, before going on to thank Councillor Petrinas for his time as vice chair. So I think, as always, I wrote a load of points, didn't read any of them, and just completely. So just double checking I haven't missed anything that was vital to say. But I think
you got the message over.
The key point is it's grey. So we can do what effectively we can say it doesn't matter. But the decisions we are making are about openness and transparency. And I think having a chair that is not a member of the Lib Dems would be the best way to demonstrate that. Now, can obviously be discussed at full council. I think it's just a bit awkward that the leader made a brilliant commitment to that, but for some reason that's got lost. Yeah,
Thank you. Councillor Lever.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your openness in congratulating the leadership in wanting to introduce more transparency and more scrutiny into the work of the council. And one of the joys and the frustrations of working in a committee system, which I honestly think is the best way for local authorities to work, is that things don't always go the way that you were expecting them to go. So both the leader and my view was that this should be really clear and clean, and there should be a separate scrutiny committee and a separate policy development committee. I mean, currently, I know there's a lot of talk over resources, but the policy development committee is not overstretched with agenda items at the moment. But anyway, that's water under the bridge, because what the leader and I did at the Policy Development Committee that decided on these changes was that we put forward these two options of having a separate scrutiny committee, which, as you say, would really be best chaired by somebody not from the leading group, and a separate policy development committee, or having a joint committee. And that policy development committee decided, against what we thought might happen, to stick with one committee. Now, everyone, I think, is concentrating on the scrutiny element of that. But within the leading group, what we've got to be aware of is the policy development element of that. And I think that's not the chair of a committee that does policy development is something that rightly ought to sit with the leading groups. I mean, that's sort of where our position is. But I mean, and part of the reason I came along tonight was just to reflect back on the meeting that was had, the policy development committee meeting that was had. So there was a lot of discussion about whether we should have one committee or two. And I think, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Councillor Turton in the end, but forgive me, Councillor Turton, if you watch this or read the minutes and it wasn't you, but said, well, shall we give it a go? Because this is a new thing for us. Let's give it a go and see how it works. And as a leading group, we're very open to doing that. There's the annual meeting of the council in May, and what I'd suggest is that let's stick with the arrangements as they're proposed now. And honestly, it's up to you. If you think that in the scrutiny function of the Policy Development Scrutiny Committee, that committee is pulling its punches because it's got a chair from the leading group, then hold us to account at the annual meeting. But I mean, I think we've got a hugely experienced councillor as chair at the moment, and I don't believe that committee will be swayed by politics. I think just one final thing, and John Triggs might be able to correct me on this, but I think Councillor Half-Booth, you talked about the opposition chairing on this committee. As I understand it, in spite of our little differences, the Liberal Democrats and the Independent group are sort of jointly running the council. The Independent group have got a couple of really key lead member roles and chairs of one or two committees. So I mean, we're not, the leading group it doesn't have closed doors. We're not making decisions behind closed doors. The Independent group is there at that decision making. That's pretty much all I had to say on it.
Yeah, I believe that during the last policy committee, and certainly the one before that, the leader of the council was saying that the independents were being political, and I believe that was aimed at me, and I think we all know that I'm not at all political. So it does show that the party groups do certainly have an us and them. And at the last policy development committee, it did feel a little bit like debate was trying to be shut down, which is concerning. And I don't think, to be honest, with the discussions that have gone in with the Independent group, whether anyone within that group who actually, specifically says we need to chair this, it could be that another group chaired the policy, but I think for openness and transparency, certainly as the chairing has changed in the last meeting, the style of chairing seemed to change. That would be a concern if the policy committee was to scrutinise an area of the council, because it did feel like the shutters were coming down.
Personally, I like to think about positions rather than individuals, but I know it's hard. It's hard, but
It was the position, but it was the way it was
Yeah.
chaired, and each chairman chairs in the way that they chair. And I'm just raising that I felt that policy, it doesn't seem to be functioning the way it has previously. And it does seem like things have got a little bit us and them between the leading group and the other members of that committee. And I haven't seen that before in that committee.
thank you. Councillor Walker.
This is a very big change to this committee. I will accept, I'll take that on board, absolutely. But I would feel it would be very difficult for me as a member of the governance committee to make this decision on behalf of the council, because it is a decision that doesn't just affect us as government, it affects the whole council. And I would think that in reality, the committee that should be making this decision should be full council, not governance. But that's my view.
Which previously, you look at, do you want to say a word?
No, but, I mean, John had his
Oh, did you? Sorry.
had his hand up too, but I mean, I don't mind, we're pretty much the same thing, but all I was going to say is, I mean,
The numbers there.
so if this is to be a change to the constitution,
So 2 meetings.
then it obviously has to go to full council. I mean, everything that's been decided today is being referred to full council anyway. Given that the decision's already been made on it, it would probably need to be a new motion under 12.4 of the council procedure rule, which is to refer something to an appropriate body or individual. So it'd be to refer the matter to full council to decide, but with a recommendation. Is that what you were going to say, John? Is there anything?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think, just to add to that, I think Councillor Jones made the point in terms of the committee role hasn't changed in that sense. The terms of reference for the previous Policy Development Committee did have that scrutiny function embedded within the terms of reference. So all that really has been done is the name has changed, but the emphasis has been brought out more in the terms of reference. I think the clarity, and we've looked at guidance, and it's not clear. There's no right or wrong way. There's nothing that stipulates in the advice and guidance we've looked at in terms of what is best practice. The gift really is with full council. At the end of the day, the full council, annual council, do elect the chairs of committees. So quite rightly, full council could make that decision, change the chair if it was felt right, but that there would need to be justification for that. I suppose it's important just to clarify the difference between overview and scrutiny committees and scrutiny functions within what we've got here, which is a policy development committee. Under the previous committee structure where we had executive function, the scrutiny was an overview and scrutiny committee. So that had more powers. It had powers to call in decisions made by the executive committee. And that was because the executive committee was made up of the leading party. So they had powers to call in those decisions at the overview and scrutiny committee. That's not what we've got here. We've got a committee. Decision making is made in the committee system, which is made collectively by those politically balanced committees. Those decisions are made collaboratively by councillors, and it's across those political groups. Obviously, the LGA recommendations were to bring out more of that internal scrutiny function around performance and question officers and members, but not looking at the call-in of decisions that are made at strategy and resources, because it's not that type of committee. So I think that clarity is important. The Centre for Public Scrutiny, again, in terms of looking at committee structure, chairing and resourcing, even with the full overview and scrutiny committee, have said there's no right or approach to the structure of scrutiny committees. Equally, there's no one right approach to chairing, including opposition chairing, or any agreement about what adequate resourcing or scrutiny looks like. So that's even with the full overview and scrutiny committee, the Centre for Public Scrutiny are quite clear that there is no right or wrong way, aside from transparency. What they also say is technically chairing and memberships in the gift of full council, as we've said, and the council AGM in May is usual point in when those decisions are made. but full council do have that power to do that through the year if they see right. Membership of committees must be politically proportionate, but chairing need not be, and a council's leadership can entirely legally give all scrutiny committee chairships to majority party members. A number of councils make chairships available across party groups proportionally, but there's no requirement to do so. So there's no clear guidance in terms of which way a committee should be chaired. Across the other chairs within the council, we don't make reference within the constitution around it should be from an opposition party, because again, you're restricting then in a sense the transparency of that chairship within the constitution rather than giving it to full council to make that decision, which is really then giving it to all 42 members. So really full council is the body where the transparency is made in terms of electing the chair. That's obviously in the gift, obviously, of full council to do, and obviously that is where really decisions like this should be made. I think the key thing is obviously we don't make it clear in the constitution on any other committee. The only one that is clear is for strategy and resources. It says it should be the leader, but again, the leader doesn't necessarily have to come from a political party. The leader is elected separately at full council, and that leader can be from a different party than the leading party. So again, it doesn't stipulate which political party or opposition party that should come from. So the recommendations in front of you tonight are around the constitution. Obviously, the importance of transparency and openness we try and have through the committee structure, which is why we've gone for the committee system itself, and the importance of the outputs from that scrutiny and policy development committee hopefully are more embodied now in the terms of reference. I think that's the importance in terms of the outcomes from that committee. But obviously the decision in terms of chairperson would need to be a full council decision if members saw appropriate changes to be made.
Thank you. So that's
Can I make a proposal that the decision on the chair either is delayed until next May as suggested, or should be taken to full council? Obviously, it's too late to go to Wednesday's full council meeting, so it would have to be the next full council meeting.
Procedurally, that would have to happen anyway.
Is it too late?
Well, yes,
There's no
but
point.
as a separate motion.
Yeah, can we, oh, we got chair the council, but is it too late? If we did want to make.
You obviously have recommendations in your report this evening from governance around changes to the constitution. So obviously those are making recommendations about constitution changes. That's the subject matter on your agenda. And therefore your recommendations are around that report and the constitution, not about electing a chair for a committee. That would only need if you were making constitution changes, which in a sense I think are two completely different things.
That's Jonathan.
My understanding is, though, is Simon, is that this committee can make recommendations, and those recommendations will be within the report of this committee. And I asked that this committee makes a recommendation, and that recommendation makes not necessarily names who the committee names that it should be part of, but asks that for transparency, the policy and scrutiny committee is not chaired by the leading party. And the bit that my understanding is that is why it's come here. So that recommendation can be made and that can be taken to full council, and full council can then still debate the point, but they would then have to refuse to accept the recommendation of this committee.
But there's nothing in this agenda item that mentions the chair.
So the minutes from this committee will go to full council. So the minutes are obviously on this agenda item. So if there are recommendations within these minutes, whether that be the minutes or the recommendations that I hear or any subsequent changes, they would go to full council. But the agenda item is around constitution changes.
Yeah.
So again, you would expect any recommendations to be around the report title and item that you have in front of you. Those minutes would go to full council on Wednesday at night this week. And then full council will then obviously make a decision on those.
Councillor Howard Booth.
Can I defer to Councillor
Yes.
Lever?
It was a question for John Triggs, really.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise.
Sorry. I mean, if as you say, I mean, there's nothing else in the constitution about the the makeup of the chair or the vice chair or the league members and which groups they should come from. Are we at risk of setting ourselves a precedent if we do it for this committee, bearing in mind it's not, as you said, full overview and scrutiny committee?
I think yes, because obviously the other committees are not explicit in the constitution around the chair should come from A, B or C. They are elected at full council in that open and transparent arena with all 42 members. You're not explicit in the constitution about they should come from party A or party B or the opposition party. If you're doing it here, then in a sense you're making a precedent on this committee, albeit I fully understand the rationale behind it because of what has been raised so far. But quite rightly, you would be making a rule in this committee that's not within the constitution on the other committees that we have. So the other committees, they're all elected at full council, and that is in the open and transparent arena of all members.
Councillor Howard Ruth.
I've really appreciated this debate because I think it shows how well we work together from our different parties, and that's a huge strength of this council. And so there's no kind of rancor or any sort of hint of divisiveness about raising this. It's just that the way, you know, I've really appreciated the way everyone has spoken and contributed. And it is typical of this council, and it's very precious, and we need to keep that. I think why it does concern the independent group, and we had a full discussion of this the other evening, is that a scrutiny committee is not really like other committees. And I just want to quote the chair's, if we look ahead in the reports, his report on page 265. You don't need to look it up, but he does say that the role of the governance committee includes, quotes, the importance of independence of internal and external audit and review. And independence keeps coming up in your, quite rightly in your report, just the raison d'etre. So I think just very briefly to go back to the fact that this is a grey area, and I think that is very clear. But I think we had the opportunity to actually paint our own colours and say we don't actually want our scrutiny committee to be a grey area. We want to paint it a bit more vividly in contrasting colours, so it's clear that we are doing what we think is best practice. And so I would like to suggest we counter amendment, perhaps, that we could discuss and vote on that perhaps at some point.
I'm happy to second that.
You mentioned at some point.
Well, whenever the chair decides.
At a future meeting.
No, I think we get on with it tonight.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Happy to second that.
Okay. Any other comments? Also, Pat adds a bit of context, things coming out for us to think about as well. As far as the LGA review, this what we've been doing some work on in phase one. There's still some changes to be implemented at the next full council. That's about people not sitting on different seats of committees. So there's still a chance to sort of implement some changes in April. We've also got the LGA revisiting us in October. So we can seek further advice possibly through the LGA coming in October. If we are going to discuss it and make amendments to the constitution here, Chair, I will be saying at full council that we need to revisit it there rather than just passing it carte blanche.
Agreed.
I think there's only there's 5 of us here, 5 good councillors, don't get me wrong, and non-voting councillors and independent members. I think there are 42 across North Devon. Councillor Walker.
Totally agree with that, Chair. I think that this is not a change that we can put in effectively a recommendation in our minutes, but I would say this is not a change that could be made by this committee.
We all agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, no, it has to go to full council. But I think Councillor Harris-Booth is merely flagging this. Even if it gets voted down at council, it does at least show that these things are being discussed. and 42 councillors need to have a vote on. That's quite correct. All we're doing is voting on that we have a recommendation that this be scrutinised by full council. And there's no harm in it going to full council to say this has been flagged up. And councillors can either say yes or no. And in fact, it helps the councillors to say how transparent they are, because there will be I'm sure there will be a level of debate around this. It won't just be pushed through like a normal report, because it's worthy of debate.
So subject to legal advice. All words along the lines of in the minutes that we recommend that full council have a discussion.
No.
Does someone want to propose some wording that we work on? Councillor Walker.
I think that this is what you're trying to say, is that the chair of scrutiny, policy and development should come from a second from an opposing party.
A group of that.
Okay.
Yeah, an opposing group.
Yeah.
Right, which is just as part of the minutes rather than as being, but that this should be highlighted so
Yes.
that this is debated at full council. I don't know. Can I just, John, could I
Yes.
just ask a question of the monitoring officer? This item is about a change to the constitution, and obviously you wouldn't normally have a discussion about something that wasn't in the item as a recommendation from a committee. So are we, as a committee, able to do that? That's what I was trying to get at before. And again, it's nothing to do with party politics, and blame the fact that Parliament set the dates of party conferences for there not being enough members of the Liberal Democrat Party here.
I'm correct on that, but so the committee already passed the proposed changes.
Yes.
So this would effectively be a new motion. It does still relate to changes, because I think what's being proposed is a change to the constitution. So I would suggest it does it would fall within the same item. I mean, the only thing then is how you would propose that, and that would demand a level of drafting that would have to be incorporated into the constitution. And I would assume it would need to be something that would need to form part of the it's Annex 1 Part 3, where it would need to say of the Constitution, where it would need to provide under the Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee that akin to the Strategy and Resources, that the chair must come from a party that isn't the same as the leader. I assume it would need to say something along those lines, presumably, if it were to work. But I mean, yeah, that's anyway. But yeah. So that kind of, but yeah. Sorry, in answer to your question, I do think it can be.
And not legal.
Could I have a go? That this committee, the motion, if Councillor Hayward accepts this, I'm only a second. So, that following the best practice guidance from the AGL, DLU, HC and the CMGS, with the interests of promoting independence, public trust, accountability, highlighting this council's direction, following best practice, alongside transparency and openness. This committee recommends that the chair of the Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee come from a group other than that of the leading group.
I'll repeat that, Councillor Hayward. It's not laughing matter, really. I mean, Can we just get some clarity from?
Just the end bit.
I think obviously you're looking at a recommendation rather than a motion, because obviously this is a recommendation, in addition to the recommendations on the report that you had. Obviously, it's in relation to the constitution, so obviously it can only really be around constitution changes. So obviously what I'm hearing is that you want to make a recommendation to full council, the constitution be changed in relation to Part 3 Annex 1, which Simon referred to, that the chair of the committee be a member who is not part of the leading membership, or the wording that you just talked about. So rather than it being a long drawn out statement in the recommendation, I think you want a simple recommendation if you're referring something to full council that says recommend to full council that the Part 3 Annex 1 of the Constitution, Section 2, which relates to Scrutiny and Policy Development Committee, be amended to that the chair of the committee may not be a member of the leading group.
Majority group, because we have said the leader can be from another group. So that would.
So, I mean,
I'm only leading the conversation that you're having. It's down to you as members to make your recommendations.
I'm not sure this is entirely necessary, but I think you've got to think carefully about whether you talk about majority group or not, because it's to do with who the leader of the council is. It's to do with who the lead members are, which group they come from, because those are the people that are being scrutinised here. I think it sounds to me as though it needs more. If this is something you want to take forward, it needs more consideration than perhaps doing it in who's in this committee now.
Independent member of
45 minutes of this. Is this going into the realms of party politics? And actually the people, I don't know which party all of you fall under, or is this is all, everyone's independently discussing this, or are we going with this is on my party's behalf? Because I don't know what party any of you are from to know where this conversation is going, but it's been going on for a long time. So I just wanted to know.
Sorry.
Give way.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, I am a member of the Liberal Democrats. I will say that quite happily. And it does feel a little bit like party politics to me.
It does to me as well, just the way the conversation's going at the moment.
Which is why I would much prefer this is done by full council as a motion. I personally, I prefer it as a motion to full council as a separate motion rather than coming from governance. But if my colleagues wish to do it this way, then as long as I am able on at full council to pull this out as a point that it is something very different than the agenda.
May I clarify that I'm not in the same political party as Councillor Hayman?
Councillor Jones, thinking.
Well, I just give total reassurance. This isn't about party politics.
No, that's fine. I just wondered because the conversation's going back and forth.
It's about openness and transparency. And I think what we've seen is we've seen the leading group really go for that open transparency. Just they've slightly missed this one. So we're just flagging it. So I think the whole point is raising this and making that proposal. The decision goes to full council, but it sounds like this committee wants to make that recommendation that it as they are.
Clarity. What could go to full council? It's only in the minutes. No.
Correct.
Yes.
So
Too late for motions.
You can put another motion in motions and close.
You're too late for a motion for
Yeah.
Wednesday's full council. So the only thing that can go to full council this Wednesday are the minutes from tonight's committee, which will have the recommendations from yourselves. So those recommendations obviously are set out in the report. If you're amending those recommendations, then obviously that's in your gift, subject to a proposer and a seconder, and obviously those in favour. If that doesn't come forwards, then obviously your other options are a motion to full council, but that would go to the next full council meeting, which would be November.
That's how it was.
I think Mr. Triggs nearly had the wording right. It was challenged by Councillor Lever, but I think it was nearly right. Could you just say it again?
I think obviously there was quite a long-winded recommendation
Yes,
put
you
forward.
cut it down.
I think if you
nicely.
are making a recommendation, then obviously that's down to you as members to decide. Then the recommendation needs to be short in that this is about the constitution and therefore your recommendation is around amending part 3, annex 1, section 2 in relation to the chair of the committee. And then it's whatever you want to recommend. Obviously that's in your gift as the committee to make your recommendation accordingly.
I was hoping you would just repeat what you had said before, which was really right, but there was one word, I think, that Councillor Lever objected.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the.
This was as per Councillor Walker's recommendation was a slight amendment. So that we're proposing a change in the constitution to Annex 1, Part 3, Section 2, in that the chair of the Scrutiny, Policy and Development Committee should be from an opposition or opposite political group other than the main party, but I wasn't quite sure how to word that bit, and that you wanted that to be debated at full council. That was what I got as being the proposal from Councillor Walker, but with no seconders yet.
It's that wording that the monitoring officer could say is appropriate for as the discussion is heard here.
Yes, I mean, yeah, you obviously have to conclude the wording, but yeah, I mean, it would fall within the special requirements of which is set out in the constitution in Annex 1, paragraph 2 or section 2. So yeah, but yeah.
That's Lever.
I'm sorry for this to drag on, but I think in whatever wording you as a committee put forward, to just think about the purpose of this, which is about transparency, which is having the chair of this committee being able to scrutinise the work of other committees and of lead members, and not being swayed by being part of the same group, those lead members, those committee chairs. And that, I think, will cause you some difficulty in terms of it. I'm just thinking practically about how those arrangements would work. And if we have an opposition, then that opposition presumably doesn't get chairs of committees and lead member roles, and therefore would be, to follow what you're trying to do with this, then that opposition group member would be chair of the committee. But it's a policy development committee, and I'm not convinced that the leading group would want somebody who is not whose group is not hasn't got somebody who's a lead member or a chair of another committee being in charge of policy development for the council. I mean, I think that practically is the issue that you've got.
That was made quite clear, Councillor Lever, thank you.
Yeah.
One more point, then I want, if there is going to be a motion, a recommendation, we on to that. So,
Chair, can I just Andy, I think it sounds like you want a discussion at full council about it on Wednesday night. So would it be cleaner just to have a recommendation that says the governance committee recommends full council have a discussion whether to change the constitution for the current arrangement in terms of the chair of the committee? In a sense, you're moving this discussion on to full council as a recommendation. So you can't make that decision tonight. You're making your recommendations on to full council. The only way you can do that is by amending the constitution. You'll have the same conversation on Wednesday night at full council by raising it. So would it be cleaner just to recommend on to full council that governance are recommending to full council whether to amend the constitution around the current structure in terms of the chair of the committee?
I think it should be more forceful than that. I think the vote that we have should be a recommendation one way or the other, which will force debate.
one last comment, Peter Jones, then I'm going to need.
It's a difficult one. I'm sorry for bringing it, and I think it is open and we want to be open and transparent. And I think if this committee raise it and see if this committee passes it or not. But the bit that you sounded stuck on was, the terminology was should not be from the party of the lead member. Was that just in terms of, that was the bit that you were stuck on in terms of the leader?
Right, so if you have a leader, sorry, one.
Need, Councillor Bishop, you put proposal up before. You would able to withdraw that and we.
No,
It's so long ago now. I don't know what it was, to be honest.
I didn't realise that we were going to have so much about this,
No.
the leader, and I think that that's good that we've highlighted this, because everything that we say, we can't consider everything. So I think that we recommend, if Councillor Hayward both will accept this, that we recommend that the chair of the scrutiny and policy committee, because it's the scrutiny side of this where the concerns are, be of a different group from the leader of the council.
Proposer. Seconder.
Yeah, I think we need to include something in the wording around and the constitution be amended accordingly, because the report is around the constitution.
Councillor Bishop.
We will add that in and highlight that this recommendation is also a best practice recommendation.
It's not best practice.
No.
Transparency.
I don't think it's.
So we'll just say about openness and transparency of the scrutiny.
Yes, if I took Councillor Walker's wording that I used earlier and then used Councillor Bushel's information about it being someone, the opposition to the actual group that the leader is from.
Yes,
What you said.
yes.
So if you were
You don't need to use the word opposition. They're just a different
an
group.
opposite.
A different group. It doesn't matter where it's.
Seconder. We need to read it out again, or are we happy with? Yeah, no.
No.
In favour?
Sorry, I didn't quite see who was the seconder then.
Councillor Bushell, seconder. Oh, so.
No, it's his proposal.
I think that's how it goes, seconding. Okay. Those in favour? Right. We've got a lot to get through. And
Thank you.
never do another way, need a comfort break in 2 minutes, all right? Yeah. Moving on. Thank you everyone's contribution towards that. Agenda item 6.
6 on the original.
Can we start assuming that they're read? Just very quick, thank you, so.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Probably. To start with. So just to say, council leave, this is on the dispensation, so very worth if you leave in the. Sorry. Just to quickly fly through this. This is about dispensations for dual hatted councillors, those that are district and county councillors, but also councillor Lever because he's the spouse of a county councillor, and it's further to a dispensation that was previously given in January by this committee and then only the other week by full council. It should really go to this committee because this committee has delegated powers to give dispensations, but full council is also able to, as the sort of parent, count. Well, it is the full council, but so ideally, this dispensation should be given by this committee. So therefore, rather than have to keep coming back and asking for this, given this is a very big issue, this is a huge issue for North Devon and Devon as a whole. It's felt that a standing dispensation should be given to dual hatted councillors and also Councillor P to Lever to allow them to so in accordance with section 33 to C and E of the Localism Act, that such dispensations in the interest of persons living in the authority's area and is otherwise appropriate. Also, given that dispensations need to be time limited, so such dispensation shall expire at the point that a ministerial decision has been made to implement a proposal that includes the District of North Devon, or after 4 years from today's committee, whichever is the earlier. So that will allow those councillors to take part in those decisions, because that is, as has been evidenced, that they haven't been swayed by county views in previous committees. So therefore, it is felt that they're able to have that free and open decision.
Councillor Bushell.
Prior to the elections we just had at county council, there were views given by the county councillors who are not, necessarily listening.
No, but
Do I have to adjourn?
thank you. Sorry.
I know, that's fine.
Can I restart the meeting, and apologies for rushing out, and back to Councillor Bushell.
Yeah, so I generally try and learn from the past. And I believe the majority of our county councillors have changed since the episode that happened before the elections, where it seemed like there was a towed line of the county councillors speaking in an Exeter-centric sort of way. And that concerns me, not that necessarily that these councillors will do this at all. But I think that we should not give, I think we should go against the recommendation for the dual-hatted, and that be done as and when it happens. Because if we start to see that things are perhaps being swayed away from North Devon and more Exeter-centric, that could cause an issue within the council. And that's not against any of the people who are asking for dispensation here. And I'm happy to make that a proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Henry Booth and Councillor Walker.
We had this before, didn't we? And we voted on it before. And I think we need to be very collegiate about this and have all views from all of our members, and including the double-hatted. I think they add so much, and it would be rather uncollegiate not to. Well, I'm sorry to disagree with that.
That's absolutely your.
You're independent councillors, that's what it's like. Councillor Walker.
Yes, I would agree with Councillor Howard Booth. I would be very worried about the people who happen to have dual-hatted councillors losing their voice, because we are the voice of people, and so it means that those who had dual-hatted councillors would lose their voices in the debates that we will be having on local government reform. And this is not party politics, if anybody says it, because I very much like to hear the opinion of Councillor Wilson as well as our county councillors.
Thank you. I think what we've seen so far is they've been very transparent, our county councillors, dual-hatted, perhaps more supportive of this council than what's happening at county. This committee only meets 5 times a year, and if this is rejected, this recommendation, chances are our monitoring officer would need to make those decisions. Is that correct? In between committees?
Chair, I don't have that. The only power I have in terms of dispensation under delegated powers is where a meeting would otherwise be in court. So I mean, obviously an alternative could be that you delegate powers to me to do it, but I think that's the same difference really.
Okay. Councillor Walker.
Could I propose to go with the recommendations on 2.1 and 2.2 of the report, please?
Yeah, second,
Secretary.
Yeah, it's a procedural thing. Obviously, you had a proposal from Councillor Bushell, but
Yeah.
You've got a seconder first.
Do we need to vote?
You need to ask.
Yes, so you ask if there's a seconder for Councillor
Yeah.
Bushell.
So go back to the substantive recommendations? The proposer, Councillor Walker, seconder, Howard Booth, all in favour? Thank you. All thank you.
May I vote against?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I shouldn't make assumptions like this. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I believe I didn't raise the same point last time.
I did. I think we expected you to do the same again, so it's fine. Finally. Our internal auditors, I believe, is that right? Agenda item 7. Should you talk to this?
I will introduce and
Yes,
pass on to
thank
Darren. So just to take you through the progress report that we've got in front of you today. So this is the first progress report for the work that we're performing during 25-26 and follows on from our end of year report that we provided back in June. Just a bit of an introduction into the progress report. So it gives you an update on any work that we performed so far this year. It also gives you an update of any work that's in progress that's ongoing at the moment. It also covers the audit coverage and the findings that we provided on anything that is at draft or final stage. That's included in part of the appendix. So just taking you through on to page 3 is our where we start to give our overall opinion statement. As you'll see on page 3, we're not giving an opinion at this point, and that's quite usual at this time of the year. It's too early to start forming that opinion. If you remember from the end of year report, we did give a reasonable opinion for work performed in 24-25. So just following on from that, at this point, we're not giving an opinion at this stage, but we will start to build that opinion as we've done further work as the year progresses. So just looking at the committee dates, we're next doing an update to your next committee, which I believe is the middle of November, and we may be at a stage to start forming that opinion for you. Before I hand over to Darren, just on page 4, something I wanted to point out is on assurance mapping. So this would be something different that you'll see as we come to your end of year report. So as well as providing sort of the outcomes of the audits and the opinions and the overall statement, you'll see some assurance maps that we've produced, which will visually highlight sort of where there's good areas of control, which will be green, and any sort of more limited areas would be there in the orange. So we can talk you through that when we get to that stage. But each piece of work that we do as we move through the year, we'll start to look at that assurance mapping process in terms of bringing in the different assurances that we've got to give the opinion that we're giving. So just wanted to touch on that today. I'll pass over to Darren, who will talk to you in more detail about the summary assurance opinion, starting on page 5.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, Chair, and good evening, members of the committee. I understand this is on page 23 of your agenda pack. It's page 5 of our report. This outlines, as Joe has said earlier, the opinions that we've given for those 4 audits, which I'll talk about in a moment. And following good discussions earlier this year with Mr. Tate, we configured the audit plan with regards to allocating that throughout the year. Now we have confidence that that can be delivered as we go through. As you can see already with the yellows, there's much of those in progress. And following actually the submission of this report, there's a few updates to this. First of all, under governance, treasury management, that report has been issued as a draft and has been returned as substantial assurance. Under environmental enhancement, leisure services, we've held the initial meeting with the managers there. The terms of reference will be submitted week commencing the 29th. On information governance under customer focus, we use terms of reference on 10th of September. And under performance management, program management performance, we are due for an initial meeting on that one on the 23rd of September. Other than that, as I said, I'm confident that we have the allocations to take the plan going forward. With regards to the 4 audits that we're reporting on now, with regards to the assurance, first of all, procurement, I'm pleased to report that it says the status draft that has actually been finalised as well, with a very small amendment on that one, the very last sentence, which points out that the service currently does not have performance indicators. We spoke to the service manager about that, And the indicators there will be for management to decide on linking back to the procurement strategy rather than any specific performance indicators. Ground maintenance, as we can see here, has been put through in final. We're currently in negotiation with the officers to finalise the corporate health and safety. And finally, building security was actually issued as a final report, and we're happy with the responses that have come back from officers. So that one remains as final at the moment. Happy to take any questions going.
Yeah. I think it's really reassuring for grounds maintenance, a small team that tends to mind an aging population, but also the IT you're investing in. And I think it helps for the future. And knowledge transfer, very much so. Any questions?
It's not really a question, it's more of a comment. These reports are so easy to read. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a bit of further add on from that. One thing that I'm looking to improve, obviously I've taken over the role of assurance manager here in July, is to make the scopes of the audits much more tight, much more focused. In doing so, I would say this: it's easier for our auditor to go ahead and do the work, but also it's easier then for the service manager to give specific recommendations, and enables us to turn reports around quicker for you.
We do like to see green on our reports, but you know, we've got independent member. So
It's more just my own understanding and learning, but at some stage, would you share with me a risk assessment before the scoping document goes out? Would that be okay, just for me to remind myself how that happens?
Do you mean a risk assessment for what's on the plan?
No, for the actual audit when it's started by a member of the team.
In that scoping stage for their particular audit?
Would that be okay? Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chair. It was just to come back on Councillor Walker's point. So previously, obviously, members a few years ago used to get all the reports, which obviously was quite a detailed reports. That's obviously why we changed to this more summary version, which I think is obviously members are welcome. But just to remind members that if you do want to see more detail, you're more than welcome to ask for a copy of the full report, and through our auditors we can provide that for you.
I think for us, if we get a new member joining us, but in the future, I think it's through Adam.
Yeah.
Is that right? Thank you. Anything else you want to cover?
Sure, you've got another member.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much.
I'm finding one eye, so mystery off there. So.
I agree. It's very well set out and very clear, but I have a minor cavil, I'm afraid, which is
Grammar.
suddenly you started using American English rather than British English, and if you're reading 300 pages of stuff as we had to do tonight, it's kind of irritating to have to stop and say something wrong here. So what's wrong here on page 4 is behaviours and benefiting bullet points 3 and 4. And I only raise it because it just is easy. It's so easy to remedy, and it's a bit distracting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll take that one. Yeah, I didn't spot it, but we've got a proofreading here. So.
Paddington Chief strikes again.
Thank you. Any other comments on that report?
The only thing I might suggest is if the full information is sent out to members of the committee with this, and we just have the simplified reports. So if we see something, we can then dive into the full report. That might be it. Just so it's there for members rather than having to ask and then wait for an officer to send it out. It just gets sent out with the documentation.
One officer. So I've got to orange panther.
Just come back on that, Chair. If there's a limited assurance report, you will get the full report, obviously presented.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, yeah, it's up to members. If members would want a copy of each report, each time there's a lot of detail for members to receive. And obviously, I know conscious you do get a lot of emails. It's down to, I suppose, individual
box is full all the time. I have to keep deleting all the time.
But if certain members would like a copy of the report each time, then through the head of governance, obviously that can be arranged. But if you can put your
not
request,
just be sent out with the pack that we get for the meeting, even if that's in the restricted side.
It wouldn't come as part of the pack because obviously this is the agenda. So if it went with the pack, it would then go on to the public agenda. So we used to put every report on there before, but that was a lot of detail for members to receive, which is why obviously the condensed version gives you the assurance and the summary of the report. But if members do want the detailed report, then obviously they can be emailed out when they're finalised. But obviously that I think will be down to individual member choice.
May I then request at this point that I'll be sent the full report each time it's published?
Can I just put my SIPA hat on and just say you don't need to worry about low risk audits. You're not here to focus on those at all. You are just here to focus on high and medium risk things, and for the amount of work it gives Joe and the team and everyone else. But I would just say if I was sat training you right now, I would say at no situation should you ever ask that. As someone sitting on your audit team, it's a bit awkward because I'm not here as SIPA, but it's part of your role with the position statement and all these things you sign up to and the training you receive as an audit committee member. We would say to you, never do that, because you trust that Joe and that lot actually know what they're doing and they will tell you what you need to know.
I'm not asking that they prepare any other reports, but if they have prepared a report, it gets sent out. I don't want to increase their workload.
Can we leave it to Adam to send out next meeting?
So Bishop can have a copy of each report.
Thank you. Until we fill up your inbox, then you can decide.
I keep asking IT to
Transparency. Well,
make it bigger.
just very quickly, I know you love about IT and IT security. We've now got that expert. It's now our auditor. So the future meeting, call on Darren for some advice. Just a note. Anything else? Anything else?
If you're happy, then obviously our internal auditors are going to leave if you're happy with that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the long way.
Back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Right.
So, item 10, isn't it?
I'd like to make sure the.
Update from Charlie.
Bishop.
So,
It's a present remotely.
thank you. So over to our external auditor, Charlie Martin. Can you hear us, Charlie?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Chair. Hopefully I come up on the video. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so it really is just a short verbal update on our ongoing external audit work. Firstly, I'm pleased to say we continue to have a very good working relationship with John and the team. We're at a point now where we've been able to complete a good proportion of our work, such that we're now into the final phase of completing the work and resolving the final query. So we expect that largely to be completed by early October, which means we're on track to report back to yourselves at November's committee meeting as I guess as was sort of planned and set out in the original timetable. And out of the work so far and how we see it proceeding, there's been no, please say there's been no significant issues that I need to raise for your attention at this point. So at this stage, it's just explaining that the work is ongoing, but there's no significant issues to flag.
Thanks, Charlie. I think sort of in previous audits, I think what slows things up a little bit is two things: pension valuation and asset valuation. Is that sort of all on track?
Yeah, so the asset valuation work, which is what I guess we can control, that remains on track. Naturally, we do have queries ongoing, as you'd expect, but nothing. I don't think that's insurmountable. It's just making sure we've got the right evidence. And then the pension fund, we've made contact with the pension fund auditor, and they're expecting to be able to finalise their work in late September or early October. So that means it will be in good time for all November's meeting. So I'm hopeful, touch wood, that nothing should change, and therefore we'll be able to sign off the accounts for the council at November's meeting, or well, I guess when full council meets.
Thank you. Any questions? Well, thank you very much. I think sort of, I'm not sure if Adam Tate has spoken to you, but I think sort of next time you're on site, I think once we've got offer to all members to have access to you, without officers, if there are any questions they wish to raise. Charlie, that was.
Yeah, I can pick that up with Charlie.
Pick that up with Charlie. Thank you.
Yeah, no, be happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. It started a long wait, but we look forward to reading your final report.
No, you're welcome. I wish everyone a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Good. Right. Item 10. And we're on to
Back to me.
Officer Fuller again.
Thank you, Chair. So this is hopefully quite straightforward. You may recall back on the 23rd of September last year, the RIPA policy was added to the governance committee programme to be reviewed annually. So this is just a periodic annual review. We previously had a review by the regulator who considered that everything was appropriate, including our policy. So that there's no, I mean, nothing's happened, or that no law has been changed in the interim. So the plan is to keep the policy as drafted. There was only a very slight change, which was to John's job title at the end, because it was your old job title, wasn't it? That's the only very minor change that's been made. But yes, otherwise the recommendation is to keep it as drafted. The only thing that came out of the regulators' audit of us was to deliver training, which has been delivered, but there is going to be additional training to be delivered for frontline staff in terms of those more involved with the investigations, and that's at the end of the report. You know, the intention. I'm just liaising with our HR team to get that delivered this year is the plan.
Thank you. I know we're in part A, but whether you can answer it, but which team would use this most? Would it be licensing or housing?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's probably environmental health,
yes, yeah.
Investigation. But I mean, no one's ever. We've got, you know, so the situation is the same as when this was last brought. So we haven't carried out any covert or you know, surveillance. It's only ever been overt surveillance. So there hasn't been a need.
Okay.
And that's the kind of push of the policy, really, is that, you know, and the law is that it is something as a last resort, really, if there is no other means of. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Just do we need a?
But the recommendation is to approve that it remains as drafted.
I'm happy to propose
it.
Yeah, the recommendation.
Good. Well, thanks for one said, sorry.
Sorry, I was writing.
Well, long evening, sorry. And all in favour? Thank you. Good, thank you. Maybe you want someone else now, the range? 11, is it? Next. John.
Thank you, Chair. Members, these next 4 items are policies and strategies that this committee previously received back in 2021 and approved. They've been updated and reviewed by our counter fraud team through Devon Assurance Partnership. So first of all, just on record, a big thank you to that for their valuable input. The counter fraud manager has reviewed and refreshed documentation. Some suggested changes and updates have been shown, some legislative updates and some changes to documentation since the previous version that you've approved. They're here for your review and recommendation onto full council for adoption. So subject to your approval this evening, they'll go on to full council for approval on Wednesday evening. So item 11 is the anti-money laundering policy. This policy outlines this council's commitment to preventing money laundering and sets out procedures to be followed to enable to support the council to comply with its legal obligations. It applies to all employees and members of the council. The policy itself starts on page 199, and you'll see for each of these documents, they've been shown with track changes, so you can see where the updates have come in. So in section 2.1, there are just some legislative updates. The policy sets out what money laundering is in section 3 and recognises what money laundering activity takes place in section 4, and then the appropriate reporting lines with clarity on if there's failure to report. That's clear in section 5.4 what the reporting ramifications are, and section 5.5, and also a section on tipping off in section 6. But Chair, they are minor changes to the policy that's been previously approved, so happy to take any questions, but refer you to recommendation 2.1, page 197.
So just a very minor comment really, within agenda item 12, would you?
This is item 11, Chair.
11, sorry, 11. I didn't remember that one. No, nothing wrong on that sort, no. No. That's special.
I was just going to ask why we've crossed out that and procedure, page 199.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's a policy rather than a procedure. I think in the past we called it a procedural document. But in a sense, it is our overriding policy. So in conversations with the council broad team, they felt it was appropriate that we refer to it as our policy. Similarly with the next couple of documents, which are whistleblowing policy and anti-fraud policy, just for consistency.
Okay, thank you. Happy to go with this.
Can I have a proposal? That's official, seconded. How would we, all in favour? Thank you. Over to Mr. Street again for item.
Chair. So item 12 is our whistleblowing policy. Again, the aims of this policy are to encourage staff employees to report genuine concerns, any suspected wrongdoing, and to report them as soon as possible in line with the correct policies and procedures. But also in the knowledge that their concerns will be taken seriously and investigated appropriately, and also that their confidentiality will be respected. This policy applies to all employees, consultants, contractors, volunteers, casual workers, agency workers, and also partner agencies. Again, some minor updates to the policy that was approved back in 2021. Policy sets out what whistleblowing is, how you raise your concerns, and the investigation process is set out in section 6. The importance is that the protection and support is clearly set out to anyone raising whistleblowing concerns. And also we've updated the key contacts in the last section, as there's been some officer changes since this policy was last brought in front of you. But again, happy to take any questions, and the recommendations are in 2.1 on page 209, Chair.
Can we go to appendix A, 218, very minor, this is 7.2 paragraph, it mentions contact the chairman. Can that be changed to chair? Is that appropriate?
Can I just bring up a clarification, Chairman?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
Okay, as long as that sort of is correct.
Chairman is the correct.
I know, okay, because we use chair generally across committees. I think we do.
Obviously, in full council, we call it chairman, don't we?
Chairman, yeah. It's minor.
Normally the correct terminology.
Yeah. We've got lots of contact details on there of individuals. Do officers have the authority to make those minor changes that come back to this committee? Because we
If
know-
it's something very minor in terms of officer contacts, then
Yeah.
yes, we can make those changes. I think if you're changing anything within the policy itself,
Yeah.
then we would expect that to come back. I think in the past where we have had an officer change, we have just made the change to section 10.
That's very sorry.
So it's,
Seems
so yeah, that
we
we,
keep going back here.
if it's non-material such as that, Chair, we would
Thank
make
you.
that change.
Proposer?
Just-
Sorry.
I guess I'm going to ask the monitoring officer with this legal thing. Quite a lot of things where there is a word that's crossed out and then replaced with the same word. And it happens all the way through the document.
Replaced by a full stop.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't fathom why we were taking a word away and then putting it back in again. So it is like, it's a legal easy thing that's happened.
Thank you.
It's track
Yeah.
changes, Chair. I think that's just what
Yeah.
Microsoft Word does, I think.
Yeah.
It's legally,
But you're right, if you're changing in, let's say there's a colon or semicolon, then we've obviously changed the wording and the semicolon or comma. It doesn't look strange.
so what's the implication of using a semicolon instead of a full stop?
It's more just terminology. Obviously where for example,
Off Councillor Hayward Booth.
Offline, have a session, that's all have a session with Councillor Hayward Booth offline, if that's all right. Councillor Bishop, is that all right? Thank you.
It just seems odd that we used it then and we're
Yeah.
changing
Yeah.
it now, and there are some things in the world that I don't understand. And I just wanted to know why,
Yeah,
whether there's any actual meaning change by
No.
removing.
just the correct grammar, I suppose, and
It's a version of grammar. I wouldn't say it's correct, but it's acceptable.
Is it a bit like
Okay.
the Oxford and comma then?
Can we move on, if that's all right? Can we have a proposer, please? Councillor Walker, seconder, Emma Booth, all in favour? Thank you. 13, is that correct?
So members
Yeah.
of the anti-fraud, bribery and corruption policy. So yourselves as elected members and employees play an important role in creating, promoting and maintaining a culture which requires everyone to act honestly and with integrity and to safeguard the resources for this council. This policy sets out the expectations in terms of any level of fraud, corruption or bribery in or against the council will not be tolerated. It sets out in sections 3 to 5 what is fraud, bribery and corruption, and then again outlines the reporting avenues for reporting suspicions of such activity. Section 7 sets out the authority's responsibilities. This is not limited to, but includes regularly assessing fraud risks. And Adam and the team work closely with the counter fraud team around doing fraud risk assessments and then work on service areas. It sets out having an effective response plan, which is your next document on the agenda for approval, having effective internal controls in place, liaising with this committee, hence the policy coming in front of you this evening, promoting the policy to our employees and outlining their responsibilities, and again, together with counter fraud training to both officers and to members. And you'll recall that Ken Johnson, our counter fraud manager, previously came to full council and delivered training. We'll be expecting an update session from our counter fraud team to members in the near future. It also sets out that vigorous investigations will be carried out accordingly, ensuring that actions are taken to minimise the risk of any similar frauds if they did taking place in the future. Section 7 sets out the responsibilities for myself as Section 151 officer, also responsibilities for operational managers, staff, and also yourselves as elected members. Again, minor updates to the policy in terms of context and the recommendations, Chair, on page 2, section 2.1 on page 223. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any comments? No? Just a minor observation, just in case Councillor Howard Booth got interest. We've introduced North Devon District Council documentation. You know, it's a minor thing, that's a feature. We seem to use North Devon Council generally across documentation.
Do, yeah. I mean, North Devon District Council is our legal.
And,
So again, this document's been produced in partnership with Devon Assurance Partnership. So again, they've used the legal term in this document, but yeah.
I'm not sure I read it really, so independent memory line with
But today I found out about new law called, I don't know, no, it's not a new law, it's failure to prevent fraud that came into effect from the 1st of September, but it relates to the Economic Crime and Corruption Transparency Act, and we're sharing it across councils at the moment. That's not one of the ones they've included on there, and I don't know if it's got the information from it, but it might be worth just flagging that there is new guidance on your responsibilities as an organisation. But like I said, I don't know if I'm right or not, but it was only that I found out about that today through something else.
The context of it's included in the policy, but we will double check that with the.
Yes, this is on page 238. It does.
You know,
it does.
I'm a skim reader, I'm not a thorough reader.
Yeah,
It's just not in the list in the legislative framework on the last page.
it falls in under the next item, which is in the counter fraud response plan. So we pick it up under that on page 238 around economic crime and transparency. So, but no, thank you for.
Okay.
Could I just-
question?
Question around the an organisation may be held criminally liable if an associated person has done this, and it's saying that I guess that anyone, because it's saying even if the senior management don't understand it. So could we have some elaboration there? Because it seems like perhaps there could be fraud right down at the bottom of the tree that nobody knew that was going on, and then the organisation is then liable for that, even though.
Yeah.
No, it just seemed like it's
you know, it's that the board, we are the board.
Yeah, so and obviously section 3 again refers back to that same point independent member was referring to in terms of recently the Economic Crime Corporate Transparency Act introduced that new corporate offence failure to prevent fraud, and that applies to large organisations. So if you're meeting 2 or more of the following criteria, if you've got more than 250 employees, or you've got annual turnover of 36 million or more than 18 million total assets. So at the moment, we don't meet that threshold. It's meeting 2 of those. So, but again, we continue to make sure we implement proposals accordingly. But obviously, if we went over that threshold, then we would become responsible.
But by having these procedures, then that shows that we are compliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, it shows that we're still trying to meet those same criteria. But even though we don't meet that threshold yet because of the size of the organisation, it shows that we are, in a sense, putting good practice in there to try and detect and counter fraudulent activity and take it seriously in terms of protecting the public purse.
I mean, it's good that we're doing it. It's a concern that we're not obliged to do it. I would think that the people would expect that all of local government had safeguards in, because, as you've said before, there is, you know, I think we were talking about the COVID grants and things like that. You know, that a huge amount of money could get paid out in the wrong way if we didn't have our procedures and you stress tested them. And I think, if I'm correct, we took a little while longer, a couple of weeks longer than other authorities, but actually, because you had all your safeguards put in, we managed to roll out the funding to companies far quicker than the people who got a jump start on handing out the monies. But one would think that it should be mandated that we have all of these things in.
Controls are important. So with anything we're doing, we'll make sure we've got strong controls in place before we're paying money out. And we've also got strong controls in place to detect things early, so that if something does go wrong, we can pick it up and investigate it quickly.
This might be a really good point. Sorry to come in there. What internal audit haven't yet informed you is you've now got a responsibility as well to assess the effectiveness of internal audit from this year and how well they are identifying risks and looking after risks. And yourself and Mr. Triggs, or whatever we call it, Triggs, I don't know, are actually now responsible for actually having oversight of how well that function happens. And although it's not a legal thing, as part of your responsibility under the new CIPFA code of governance is to actually make sure that they are putting these controls in place to like identify fraud. So we've got a responsibility
And I'm
from
sure
that
that you
side.
will scrutinise this and bring it to our attention, because you're far more, you've proved that you're far more informed at this committee than the majority of councillors.
But that's because I do it for a job.
Yes.
I know, but it's good. It's good that you're here, because then you can flag a debate up.
But some of these ideas are so linked to lots of other things that once you relate it to a conversation, it's quite clear that that's what you're supposed to be doing. But when you look at it in a massive list of 1,000 other things, sometimes it's quite, and that's a new thing from April this year, that you will actually be assessed on next year. Not like directly just through reading the minutes and stuff, but those sort of conversations are taking place and you've considered it. So, sorry.
Okay. It's the notes, but proposer. Walker, seconder. Booth, all in favour. Thank you. Right. Thank you. Item 15. 14.
Yep. Final one from me, Chair. So this complements the last policy. This is the counter fraud strategy and response plan. So this is sort of read in conjunction with the anti-fraud, bribery and corruption policy. That was more the overarching policy. This is now the strategy and response plan. So it just sort of complements the policy. This sets out how we will prevent, pursue and protect against serious and organised crime, protecting the public purse and organisational integrity and reputation from fraud and cybercrime. The main changes to the policy are in section 4 around governance and strategic, data and technology and intelligence sharing, awareness training and communication. It touches on information technology and data matching exercises that we carry out. So we do data matching with things like National Fraud Initiative. So we compare databases, for example, council tax information with electoral registration. So it picks up things like single occupancy discount. So we do lots of data matching exercises. Section 8 outlines the sanction guidelines, and we're working closely then with working with the regulatory agencies and the counter fraud team at Den Assurance Partnership. So again, this one goes in hand with the anti-fraud policy that you've just approved. And again, the recommendations on 2.1, page 233, for adoption of this policy to go on to full council.
Thank you. May I just pick up, you mentioned the council tax and single persons allowance. I recently had a letter from the council And I don't know where you get your data from, but it came with the wrong postcode on it. So as it seems to apply to here that I am a single person who claims that, and I had to then say, yes, I'm still the only person here. There isn't anyone who would put up living with me. But I guess we get it from a database, and the database is incorrect. And I did check the postcode, and it is in the same broad area of the town, but it's definitely not for my housing estate. So I wonder whether we want to check that for.
We can check that.
Can we leave
Check
that?
that
Can
for.
we leave that? We have to do some.
Yeah, we need to check it though for the whole of North Devon, I guess, because whichever resource we're using.
You can send me an email with the detail with what it came as and what it should be, then I'll double check that area and make sure, like you say, it may just be a.
I think it gave me a postcode of AX at the end.
Send the details through to me and I'll
Send it
pick that up
through,
again.
Yes.
But yeah, I'll check
Do
that.
you know which database we use for generation of addresses?
The council tax database will be what we use for generation of the letters that come out around council tax single occupancy discount. So it'll be the main core council tax database.
Okay, that's a bit concerning because that's not our database. I guess that's something that's generated and then we just
It's
use.
our database. Yeah. The database we've got with all the addresses of North Devon in.
So which resource populates?
One of the on it. This is we've got
Send the detail-
one
send the
individual.
detail through to me and I'll make sure we check the records and that it's complete, and I'll make sure we check the ones associated with your own as well.
Any comments on this particular report? No. Proposer, this is no, but proposer, Councillor Walker, Hobart, all in favour? Thank you.
Proposing on to full council chair, so not just the note. So
Is it? Oh, sorry.
All four are proposing on to full council.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, members.
Item 15, Mr. Buller.
Thank you, Chair. So everyone will be used to this by now, really. But so each March and September, a report comes to this committee just to outline whether there have been any incidents of fraudulent activity. Pleased to report that that there are no updates to be made and no incidents to report. So the recommendation is just to note that, really.
Good. Same as last year. Good. Clean sheets. Let's try and get 3 in a row, shall we?
So I recently there was a newspaper article about one of the elected members not paying their council tax, which I guess is fraud.
No.
That's not fraud. Not paying your council tax.
I don't want to get.
Okay. No, I was just wondering why that it wasn't sent to members.
It's quite clear that sort of.
And I just read it and I thought that's a bit odd. I know it wasn't me.
Debtor, that's all. that-
Okay. I mean, it wasn't me because it said in the article that it was somebody who was married and nobody had put up with me.
No, I didn't think it was you. Thank you. So, is the note, is that the note?
Yes.
Thank you. This proposal, seconder. Councillor Walker, Hobart, thank you. Right, moving on to item 15. Sorry, 16, sorry. Is that Mr. John?
So members, this is your normal audit recommendation tracker that picks up the outstanding audit recommendations, normal table in Appendix A, which sets out when it's high, medium and low risk. No overdue high risk recommendations, 1 overdue medium risk, which I'll come on to shortly. And obviously low risk items don't come to this committee for consideration. They're being picked up accordingly. Table B sets out those audit actions on page 253 and 254. 255 of those actions that have been completed since the last committee. So pleased to see a number of recommendations closed off and been dealt with. Appendix C just sets out 1 overdue audit recommendation, which is in relation to the museum. And this is around the references for volunteers at the museum. Originally was due by the end of June. The museum manager is still putting that into place and has just recommended a short extension to the end of this month, the end of September. So she's still working on that, but just wants a short extension to the end of this month. But she's assured us that that will be dealt with quickly. And therefore Appendix D, which then highlights your overdue actions. Obviously, there are none outstanding on there. Appendix E are then the annual governance recommendations. There are a couple that aren't due, which aren't due until March 26. So they are being worked through currently with the team. One due by the end of September, which is 90% complete, and that's still being progressed. The remaining ones either aren't due or have been completed. So again, that table has got no overdue recommendations for consideration. So, Chair, the consideration is obviously Appendix C, which is that one outstanding audit recommendation that's overdue. But as assured by the museum manager, she aims to have that one completed by the end of this month.
8 days, isn't it? Just any 8 days. That's all we're talking about. Councillor Bishop.
We glossed over the low risks, as they are only low risk. But we can see that there are some which are really quite overdue. You know, we got them from 23, 24. But nobody's asked for an extension on those. Have they just been forgotten about? I mean,
yeah, they don't come
23 was a couple of years ago. It seems odd that it's taken that long to find the recommendations.
Yeah, they're being managed obviously through management. So they do still come to senior management team, but it's only the medium and high risks that come through to this committee for your consideration. So obviously there are still some from 23, 24, but they are very low risk. So again, not for consideration by governance committee.
Is that mean we're not allowed to consider them? Or can we note and send back to? No, I just think could we please highlight that this committee with a recommendation? I have no issue with the museum wanting 8 more days. I think that's probably just a staffing thing. But I think we should send back to senior management that we have noted that there are some really rather overdue. I think a couple of years is probably a little bit more than we would like, and I know I'm a bit of a stalwart for having these things done all the time, but I think that if we're going to continue seeing low risk ones which are that old, perhaps we need to sort of change the way that we review them. And an independent member might say, no, it's nothing to do with you, but
No, I'm not the bad guy. I
do. I like it when people
having written an audit report, a low audit report, it could be something as like you've only closed one of those window locks and not both of them. It could be as simple as that, and it could be roll out a strategy and a training program for the whole of the council to learn to close both of those window latches.
Yes.
And then John goes, oh, we haven't got time or money to do that right now because actually that building doesn't have a fire monitor, blah, 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 and it could just explode. So at every point they're focusing all their resources on this. No one gives anything about that window. And in 4 years' time, we'll still be talking about the window. And at some point, someone will go, do you know, it really doesn't even matter. Why was it even on a report? And that's the sort of thing they're sort of talking about. But from the other side of that, the fact it is still on a report in how many years later, is there any chance we could get an idea if it is as simple as that, or is it something a tiny bit bigger? Because I do appreciate there's a lot of reasons, exactly like I was saying, that we don't care about that.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just to get a little bit of an idea of.
Nice to get it off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or,
Then we can,
or at least the person
might be
asked for an
really
extension, so we know they haven't forgotten about it.
it might have been audited again in this time as well.
I mean, obviously they wouldn't come for an extension because we don't normally ask for extensions on low risk, but I think as alluded to, obviously the minutes can reflect the fact that you've asked about the low risk ones. We'll take that back and pick that up with the appropriate management and team within those service areas and just review where those low risk recommendations are.
Is there any chance you can just ping an email round, you know, with the whatever response it was from the head who's looking after this? You know, because I guess they'll give you some sort of very brief explanation. Just ping it out to the
independent member, what more I've done is we've spent time with them in the past, and we've actually looked at database. If you wanted, I'm sure we can spend time just to look at the detail of these.
It just seemed like there was some, you know, it's things can get overlooked.
We're looking at the big risk of the iceberg, not the.
We are, but I would say that the 2-year out-of-date report might possibly be a risk by the fact that balls are getting dropped, perhaps.
Also, just to assure you that they will still be monitoring these on Pentana, or MKI as it should be called. And also Devon Audit Partnership will have a tracker. So the things that are outstanding, like they will still be having conversations because they'll be just as desperate to get them off their desk. Like, but no one wants this is just more work for everyone.
I think at the same time, I must commend senior management and the departments for the low number of requests for extensions. And I'm a bit of a stickler for these whole extension things. I do know this, but they're coming down. They're doing good.
Yeah. That's good.
I just noticed on Appendix C, the progress bar's at 0%, but they want an 8-day extension. Are you confident that this can be rolled out in 8 days, or do you think that they need more time? Because I would hate for when I'm a full member of this committee to still be revisiting this same issue in a couple of months' time.
They answer that. We as a committee, and led by me being really finicky about these extensions, have asked the senior management team to make sure that any request for an extension is achievable within the timeframe, so we don't keep getting asked the same thing. So I don't think we'll see it at the next meeting.
We have been assured by the manager in place that they will do it by the end of September. So otherwise we would have asked them to make sure they've got a realistic date in there rather than September. But we've been assured it will be done by September. So I'm not here in November asking you for an extension.
I told you so.
Otherwise I'll be concentrating on window locks and stuff.
If that does happen, could you ask the manager to come to the meeting?
Comes through the chair, please. We're getting a little bit. No, right, thank you. And the negative. Those are the Walker. How would be all in favour? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for those 8 days.
Did we note in there that if they ask for another extension, we'd like them to come to the committee?
No. No. It's not this one. Item 17, take it as read, just the 6 month chair's report. Whether this will carry on, if you recall, part of the audit we had recently, it was talking about the chairs of Structural Resources, Policy and Scrutiny and Governance will produce an annual report. And I'm meeting with the other 2 chairs in next week, I think, whether any discussion about whether we need a half-year report. I don't think it's a legal requirement, but I think Carolyn perhaps to make it a light touch half-year report. Any thoughts on that, officers? Carolyn with a light touch and a more detailed annual report that looks at effectiveness of the committee.
I think that would be the sensible way forward, Jeff.
I think this is a snapshot of the meetings.
This gives you, like I say, a flavour of what has been discussed and debated and challenged, and your more full report then obviously is the one that you can bring in front of members.
If we have a light touch,
half
yearly, that would also allow debate.
Yeah.
If there are things that even you as the chair think are not working, it's not going to stop that happening, is it? Still the agenda for the council.
And the one thing which I touched on was we had a committee effectiveness interview, I suppose, or discussion with our auditors. I don't think, Councillor Bishop, I don't think you can make it, but
Informal workshop.
informal workshop that it was. So I think, I'd call it. And we're still waiting for the final report. We hope to have that at the next. I think we're talking about timetable next, isn't it? But
yeah, I discussed with Jeremy, the manager, last week, and she assured me that you should have that report on your November meeting.
Thank you.
So that should give you the outcome from your effectiveness.
And hopefully that'll give us some options which, as a committee, we can review and monitor about our effectiveness. Just a note, thank you. Closer, secondary. Don't need it. No, okay. Agenda item 18, which is our in its current format. I say we're meeting with the other 2 chairs.
Yeah, so as you've touched on, Chair, this is our regular work programme. I know, as you've just discussed, we are expecting the Devon Assurance Partnership effectiveness on the Governance Committee report next time. in November. Also, the feedback on some recent employee surveys. You'll also be receiving the community governance review draft proposals. And again, as we've heard from external audit, we're expecting some of their update reports and hopefully their annual report and completion report, depending on their progress, alongside your normal reports like the annual tracker that we've just been to share.
Any comments? No? Oh,
Very light on internal audit interventions. Are they just not on it at the moment, and will they just go on it late next year? Or
sorry.
there's nothing really from internal audit. So like the, you know, as it goes into March 26, we're not discussing like the annual opinion or anything. Is that just because it's not on there yet?
The annual opinion will come in June 26. It always comes after the financial year. So you'll see the 10th of June this year, we have the internal audit annual report. That would have had last year's audit opinion in. So this will go into June 26 report.
So they're all after.
They'll come after, yeah, after the March one. Yeah.
If you recall, in the last year or so, if we had any concerns with certain teams with high risks, we've asked the officers to attend. In the discussion I will have with the chairs of budget resources and scrutiny, I'm hoping that will still continue at this level. And then if we've got any higher risk, perhaps we get passed on to scrutiny committee to look into. The feedback on that. No, any comments? No. Moving on. Thank you. And item 19. Mr. Tim.
Chair, again, this is just to note the reports and to note the corporate risk in part A of the agenda as normal. We'll have the full discussion in part B, Chair.
Thank you. So that will take us on to part A.
We're just the proposal.
Proposed seconder to move into part B. Councillor Walker, Councillor Bushell. Thank you.
I've just got the.
Thank you.